I don't drive very often, but one concern of mine is that this is not going to be intuitive for motorists to start with. What's being done to educate motorists about this happening?
Another question, anybody? Please, gentlemen in the back. Oh, lady,
it was just to say, obviously it's a little bit similar to the Carpen Road roundabout, and we wonder if the people who in the offices who make these decisions actually use the Carpen Road roundabout. It's horrible, and the lady sitting next to me said there have been a number of cycle accidents there. It isn't easy at all, and because there you've often got traffic all the way up Carpen Road and continuing up towards Sainsbury's, and there's only room for the one lane going roundabout. When the traffic's at a standstill, nobody can get across, and it doesn't seem a good solution there at all.
Anybody else from the floor? Yeah, please.
Sorry, I was coming forward. I often use the cycle crossing with the pedestrian crossing on Huntington Road, and I must admit the first question is quite poignant because the drivers are not aware of you going to cross over there. So it's very rarely I'll just cycle across. I always have to stop, come off my bike to make sure it's definitely safe to cross. So what are you doing to make sure drivers are aware of these changes? Because I'm a bit sceptical that they'll stop in time, and that could potentially be more dangerous than what we have at the moment.
So, Ruth Overmead again. First time I've seen this, so forgive me. It seems quite obvious that there's a lot more needed than just that one roundabout. I would absolutely echo the other comments, I agree with them entirely. But we need to look at the cycling provision in the wider area. We need to look at the bus provision, as in frequency of services, number of buses, all those things, not just costs.
Just thinking about where that roundabout is, it's a lot of ambulance traffic, a lot of people coming with, someone in labour in the back seat of their car, a lot of very nervous people driving to A&E. Has that aspect of things been considered thoroughly in your design? Because, the irrationality of quite a lot of people at that particular roundabout really needs to be taken in consideration, and the ambulance traffic, which is, I would imagine, going to have priority.
Hello, Rob Grayston. I was just wondering, it's good that these things are being put in place so that something is happening, but how are you going to be measuring whether this is successful or not, so that we can know whether this is going to be used more, and what are you going to do if it turns out that this isn't successful as hoped?
And I just wondered if you could, I think it's very clever, as you might not be surprised by, and I would imagine that every cyclist would stop for ambulance, but I wondered if you could explain how it integrates into the roads, because if you have to come off the pavement into the road to access the roundabout, then that, I just wondered if you could explain how it integrates into the road system.
I wanted to add something to the lady's question about the Carpen Road roundabout, because that's a Dutch style, but it doesn't have such a clearly defined cycle lane around it with those give way lines all the way around it, and there has been a cyclist accident there. So are you absolutely sure this is what you will do in Queen's Way, or do you think you should upgrade the one in Carpen Road, because that is not good for cyclists? No. Because it doesn't have that really clearly defined red line with the give way lines around it, and it is very, and cyclists are finding it very hazardous there. So.
Okay, I've got Amanda, Mark, George, and then Colin. So Amanda, George.
Thank you. Just like to remind everybody, the reason for having a redesign of the Fendon Rd roundabout was because of the high volume of accidents, particularly for cyclists, and also the need to provide crossings for pedestrians who find it very difficult at present to cross Fendon Road. Those are the two drivers behind the plans. There is one aspect of the roundabout design which I know that there is concern about amongst my constituents, and I think those people aren't here tonight, so I'll say it for them. And that is whether it's still going to be safe for pedestrians when they're using the crossings on the roundabout. There is a strong wish that pedestrians should have priority at those intersections. So I'd like to make that point on behalf of people in Queen's, that pedestrians have priority at the intersections against the cyclists.
Thank you. Yeah, things have to be done, obviously, to make things safer, and it's a pity you couldn't be at the last South Area because, as we mentioned, there was quite a turnout from residents. And it was interesting that the Dutch roundabout scheme that is being shown, that they've got evidence that it's going to be taken out in Holland as well because of accidents that were caused. And I think they sent details to you of it on a regular basis. So it'd be interesting to know, were they telling the truth about the safety in Holland, because they quoted accidents on the roundabout and a call for it to be taken out there, or were they just totally scaremongering and not using the facts?
When we started this campaign about 8 years ago, the aim was to make sure that the children from Fendon Rd are able to cross safely and go to their school and vice versa. It was also their ambition to make sure that the people walking up down Mobile Road into Fendon Rd and going to Addenbrooks, and most of those people going to Addenbrooks, they have mobility issues, they're not well, and they were in danger of being run over. So we wanted to make it safe for them to get there. We've achieved the Addenbrooks roundabout, but having seen this one 2 weeks ago on the video, and having listened to the constituents, they pointed out to us, to me anyway, that the pedestrians do not have priority over the cyclists. And I wrongly assumed that the pedestrians have had priority, and it's not right. The pedestrians must have priority. It must be, there must be a true zebra crossing there to allow pedestrians. Cyclists should stop. And the roundabout should be there to, the aim of the roundabout is to protect the pedestrians, then the cyclists, and then the cars. So if you cannot make those changes, I found it very difficult to support the roundabout. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I'm generally supportive of the scheme, and I'm looking forward to seeing the finalised designs. I think it's really important that we do acknowledge that the roundabouts are effectively more dangerous for cyclists than an intersection would be. So some of the data that was provided to us from residents that Councillor Ashton refers to, I know that they've got really strong concerns about the design that's been chosen, but their starting point is understanding that in both the UK and in Holland, we started putting in a lot of roundabouts instead of intersections around the 60s or so. And what the data on that shows is that roundabouts are generally a good idea. The number of accidents, number of fatalities and serious injuries goes down, which is great. But the problem with that is that when you segment that data, what you realise is the number of accidents amongst cyclists has actually gone up when you turn it into a roundabout, and that's where kind of the background to all of these types of projects and this kind of discussion comes from. So, as I say, I'm genuinely supportive of the design that we've chosen. I think it's better than Pern Road, as has been correctly pointed out. When you try to cross the proper cycle out of the Pern Road roundabout at peak time, you can't. There is a car in front of you all of the time. And so I think if more than 50% of cyclists are using the actual cycleway on that roundabout, I would be surprised. I come across there on my bike very often, and I couldn't swear to using the actual cycle part more than half the time, because you're not on a cycleway as you approach it, so you get to the roundabout and you think, oh, I seem to be on the road, where's the cycle bit? Or you make a special effort to use the cycle bit and there's a car parked right in front of you and you can't get across. However, having criticised that, I do understand from recent presentation from Grant that the safety record at that roundabout has been extremely good since they did it. So I think we'll find he's able to defend that design quite well. And my final point, though, is that Councillor Pippas is right. The point of making these safety improvements is in the order as set out by Councillor Pippas. Pedestrians are in danger from cycle traffic. We know that not all cyclists are perfect. Far from it. Some of them are too fast and some of them put pedestrians in danger, and pedestrians, particularly vulnerable ones. And don't forget, we're right near the hospital. Some pedestrians are very slow and very vulnerable on pavements, even where, as you correctly pointed out earlier, where you've got shared pavements, and the cyclists are perfectly within their rights to be there. And as the President pointed out, it doesn't always fit because some of us have big either cargo bikes, family bikes.
Can you finish up now?
Thank you, Joe. I can see I'm trying your patience. So the point is, pedestrians need to be given priority over cyclists. They are a vulnerable group in that interaction. And cyclists need priority over traffic because they are a vulnerable group in that interaction. So I generally support the design of the roundabout. I think we've still got some work to do to bring everybody along with us to get it really well supported by the community.
Back to the officers.
Right, thank you, Chair. Just a quick introduction, this is my colleague Vanessa Kelly, who may well want to jump in on some of these answers, and thank you very much for writing all those down.
It's not intuitive for motorists to make it.
We will be doing quite a large publicity campaign once we've got start date. We'll be having a number of exhibitions locally around here. I've got a feeling that once we do get a proposed start date, this will be picked up by the national press. This is the first one in the country, and I think already we've shown that there is a lot of interest in this. Only recently, the main ITV News were going to do a piece on this, but for whatever reason they pulled out at the last minute. We do need to raise the awareness of this nationally to make sure that this is a new piece of infrastructure that is known about. We have various elements of this roundabout already in Cambridge, and the gentleman mentioned the Huntingdon Road priority crossing. We have a number of pedestrian and cycle crossings that are already in operation in Cambridge. We've had 2 of those monitored with a video camera over a period of 5 days, and they've proved to be a success with very little interactions between motorists and cyclists. So in essence the new...
I think one thing to say about the Huntingdon Road parallel crossing is that I think cyclists realise that it's, you know, a fairly new bit of infrastructure. It's not actually even in the highway code. That is being changed, the highway code is being updated. But the monitoring that we've had done shows cyclists do not assume that drivers are going to stop, just like pedestrians using a zebra crossing do not assume. So, you know, they are cautious. The road safety audit we had done noted that the users were cautious as well. So, you know, I think we feel fairly confident that cyclists are not going to be just shooting out in front of cars. I think there's going to be a certain amount of eye contact and slowing down, combined with vehicles being forced to slow down by the tighter geometry of the roundabout. Means that there will be time for each user to react to what's happening on the road.
And, you know, I mean, we all tend to drive around different cities. A lot of us drive abroad. We all come across infrastructure that we're not aware of. And I think part of the design around this is to make it sort of glaringly obvious that if you're not from Cambridge or coming up to this roundabout, that it is something different that you've never seen. And as Vanessa pointed out, it does make you wary. You then change your actions accordingly.
And we have started to engage with different bodies. So we've met with the Road Haulage Association. We always engage with the ambulance service adverts about schemes that we do in the local area particularly. So we will be rolling that out over the coming months, trying to engage with all the different types of users on who will be going through that roundabout. Okay. It's similar to Carpen Rd roundabout. There's congestion and a number of accidents. There's only one
I can't speak personally for the Radigan Road roundabout because I wasn't involved in the design, and to be honest, I don't use it a great deal. But as Colin mentioned, I think since it's been in 2014, bar the one accident that Sandra mentioned, it's had a perfect accident record with no accidents registered. Again, that was sort of 4 years ago. That was our thinking behind roundabouts in those days. Our sort of designs and thoughts have moved on since then. So there may well be, if the Fendon Rd roundabout proves to be a success, may well be that we readdress the issues that are currently on Radigan Road.
Antony Road, parallel crossing drivers are unaware. He's sceptical that drivers will stop in time.
Yeah, I think we've kind of just gone past or through that question.
Okay, Ruth said a lot more is needed than just a roundabout. You need to be looking at the wider area and the public transport as well.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I think we alluded to that in the video. This is a very small piece in a very large jigsaw of measures that are being looked at around CBC in the local area. And I think we mentioned there's sort of bus priority schemes, any number of other cycling measures that are being sort of put into this area with a view to reducing the traffic levels that was mentioned in the video. So this is just a very small element of a number of packages that are being proposed for this area.
I will be in sort of part 2 updating you as far as I'm able on some of the other cycling schemes in South East. Ambulance traffic and possible visitors. People are a bit irrational sometimes on their way to hospital.
Yeah, we mentioned that we've already been liaising with Addenbrooks. We do have contacts with the ambulance service. We liaised with them when we were looking at and doing the Hills Road scheme. So that's something that we'll be addressing again once we've got a firm start date, and we will be liaising with them throughout the whole scheme.
Rob wanted to know how we would measure the success of it and what we would do if it wasn't successful.
Yeah, once the scheme's been completed, we're obviously as keen as everyone to know whether it works or not. We will be carrying out quite sort of rigorous monitoring after the scheme's been put in, which will probably include traffic monitoring, video monitoring, so we'll be quite keen to do all that.
When will you release that information?
Yeah.
I think also, after the scheme goes in, we'll be wanting feedback from the local community, and we'll be, absolutely willing to meet with people and discuss things, and if there are measures we can put in place, we'd of course be willing to do that. How does it integrate with cycle lanes?
Yeah, so I think at the moment, if you're, say for example, travelling down Queen of this Way, whether you're on the footpath or on the road, there will be a cycle lane, a short sort of stub before you get to the roundabout. Then that cycle lane will feed into the cycle lane, the orbital cycle lane around the roundabout. And likewise, if you're then leaving the roundabout, there'll be a short stub which then leads on to, say for example, the cycle lanes that are currently in Fendon Road or Mowbray Road.
I think on Queen Edith's Way East, if we call it that arm, you'll be able to either join the shared use, even though you don't think it's very good, or you'll be able to go down onto the road. So I think we'll accommodate that.
And it will be possible to do directly onto the because often they just vanish and then you're more
Yeah,
dangerous.
the questions have been asked, thanks.
Sandra asked about Carpen Road, Radigan Road. The cycleway isn't so defined.
Yeah, again, I think we just mentioned that one.
Amanda mentioned that part of the rationale for doing the scheme was the high volume of accidents, and Amanda has concerns about pedestrians not having priority at the cycle lanes, which is also
That's
something
Colin's issue,
that
yes.
Colin picked up as well. And George.
Yeah, we've been aware that there is kind of a building issue around this. Sort of take you back a couple of years when we were designing the floating bus stops. That was quite a rigorous design process which involved members of sensory services, the RNIB, CamCitCo as well. We basically just designed the floating bus stops in conjunction with them. They were very supportive of the design in the end, and they was kind of very aware that it had to be a design that was accessible for all people. And their opinion was that we got a design as good as we could do. So we were very keen to take the design of the existing floating bus stops, which, for example, we've had video footage, we've monitored them over a long period of time, and believe it or not, there is absolutely virtually zero conflicts between pedestrians and cyclists. We've had footage of where a pedestrian will step out into the cycle lane without looking, but cyclists will just pause and wait for that pedestrian to clear out the way and then go again. So from that point of view, we're fairly confident that the design that we've got now will work. We are in fact taking the width of the cycle lane as it comes into the crossing point down from 2 metres to 1.3 metres. And that point will be coloured black, which is the same as the footpath either side. And we've always felt that it's, we've felt that it's better to have an area of kind of mutual give and take, as opposed to giving priority to one user over another. And sort of just going back to the monitoring of the floating bus stops that we've had done, that proves to work. But as we alluded to earlier, that we will be doing a large amount of monitoring after the scheme's in. If it's proved that this isn't working and there are issues surrounding the priority with pedestrians and cyclists, we do have the option to then install roundabouts if that's zebras if that's the case.
I think roundabouts are more dangerous than intersections. They're having accidents.
Yeah, I think that goes back to
UK style roundabouts.
Mark's comments about a number of residents that were putting the dangerous side of these roundabouts out, and in fact in Holland that they were actually due to be taking these roundabouts out. That's very, very far from the truth. In fact, we were at a seminar last week in Bristol about how the Dutch deal with junctions like this, and one comment they made is that the current Minister of Transport in the Netherlands is actively encouraging these Dutch-style roundabouts to be put in instead of any signalised junctions.
Because the accident record at signalised junctions is far worse than Dutch-style roundabouts, which seems quite bizarre, but this is what the data shows in the Netherlands, and they're actually taking out signalised junctions and replacing them with Dutch-style roundabouts. And I think the point that the Minister of Transport made was that in urban areas they are giving cyclists priority over the motorists, it's outside the urban areas where you've got higher vehicle speeds that cyclists don't have priority over motorists, but within urban areas, for I suppose the reason of mobility and encouraging cycling, cyclists will have priority over motorists at all Dutch-style roundabouts.
Yes, I mean, I think there are, individual roundabouts in Holland that these local residents were pointing out that they have issues with. It's exactly the same for, you could argue, we're putting the new A14 in, but there's huge accident records with dual carriageways. Why would we put more dual carriageways? But as I say, the Dutch are actively increasing the number of these Dutch-style roundabouts.
I can feel there are other questions in the room. I can feel it, and I have some too, but I'm going to obey my own rules and not ask any. So, thank you for that. That was very comprehensive. I'm sure there'll be other stuff about that. In fact, that takes us to the second item on your part of the agenda then, Robin Hood.
Yep.
Yeah, the Robin Hood Junction upgrade is actually a scheme that the Signals team at the County Council are delivering. So I am passing on information from them. It's not our scheme. They've had a whole load of new traffic counts done, and based on those traffic counts, they are modelling 3 different options for the Robin Hood Junction. I'll go into a bit of detail, because I'm sure you probably want to know what that detail is. One of the options is having one approach lane on Cherryhington High Street as you go towards the Robin Hood Junction, cycle lanes on both sides, a 2-stage pedestrian crossing, and on the Brook side there would be no taking of City Council land. The second option would be 2 approach lanes on the High Street, as you've got now, cycle lanes, a 2-stage pedestrian crossing, and a small section of City Council land, if the City Council allow it. And the third option would be 2 approach lanes on the High Street, cycle lanes, and a 1-stage straight across crossing, and a small section of City Council land. They are planning to upgrade the junction this financial year, but of course we've booked the road space already for our roundabout, and I have a feeling that Streetworks, who issue the permits and licences to carry out work on the highways, will not be particularly happy with the idea of us messing up Fendon Rd and Robin Hood at the same time. So don't ask me difficult questions, Mark, because it's not my scheme.
It's an easy question. Ward councillors met with the engineers some years ago to discuss their initial plan, which was thrown out wholeheartedly. We were told then that they would come back to the ward councillors to discuss with us before anything was mooted. So I find it amazing tonight, and again, this is not at you, but again, we're told second-hand that here's some proposals that we're looking at. Why can't they follow what they said before? That was to come back to the ward councillors and discuss with us what their feelings were. Because we made it quite clear, taking away viable green verges and putting fences up there when we'd taken fences away was not on. And they said, we've taken all that on board and we will come back to you when we have some more designs. So I just find it staggering tonight that, again, they come back to the cycling team to say, here's some ideas and not come to us.
I think they want
We'll
to...
take the questions. We'll take the questions first.
Oh, okay.
Colin?
Thank you, Chair. I wanted to ask a question on behalf of, or perhaps 2 questions. You alluded to it already, actually. I think if the Chair of the Community Forum were here this evening, she'd have a couple of questions that I'd like to hear the answers to. The first one was, you brought that up already, are we going to sequence these projects such that we're not making 2 huge messes at the same time? And then you mentioned that already, so if you've got some more information around sequencing and timing, particularly with Fendon Rd roundabout, which is getting close to the delivery phase. And the second one is whether or not we have looked at the impacts on the wider network in terms of traffic flow.
I wondered if there'll be a consultation on the Robin Hood junction, because I have had a lot of input from residents who complain about cycling near the Robin Hood junction. They say because of the way the lanes are designed, that cycling up towards the Robin Hood junction is very hazardous because cyclists get pushed onto the pavement. There's simply no room for the rows of cars and the cyclists. And also there has been other input on, as Mark said, the verges. They don't want that area spoiled. So I don't know if that could be taken into consideration and a consultation run. Thank you.
Just briefly carry on from Councillor Ashton with Scheme 2, which you mentioned. These were mentioned to us on our site visit when they were talking the scheme. So Scheme 2 we threw out altogether as with our city officers, because it was mentioned if you do Scheme 2, you're just going to lose trees which we planted about 10 years ago, which no one agreed with that. So we thought, well, I didn't even expect to see it back on the agenda.
Any other questions before the officer responds? It's yours, Mark.
Just to answer Mark's question, I was there at that meeting a couple of years ago, and I think, I mean, not wanting to speak for our signals team, but I think there was an issue. I think we'd agreed that if we were to keep the trees in the verge, we'd have to lose one of the approach lamps, which probably meant there'd be a big impact on bus times through the Tree and High Street. And I mean, we've been kind of badgering them for a couple of years now just to try and revisit the scheme. And I think what they're looking at doing now, before going back to ward members, is try and get, I think they want to do another set of modelling to see what kind of impact their proposals would have before going back to ward members. So they've got some sort of concrete evidence to say, you know, if we did this, this would happen, rather than just kind of going back to you guys with, kind of, this is what we're proposing, but we don't really know what will happen. So I think that's what they're wanting to do at the moment. So it's kind of just trying to get it out there. And we've been trying to push them for a couple of years to try and get the scheme back on the board. So I do apologise if this has come to you out of the blue, but trust me, they will be coming back to you once we've got this modelling done. Let's go.
Yeah, no, I was just going to answer Colin on the sequencing. You know, it's our aim to start constructing the Fendon Rd roundabout in September, and we've got road space booked till April. But we need to work out with the contractor who's been appointed how we are actually going to carry out the works. So that needs very careful planning, and then we need to go to Streetworks to say, what do you think of this? And if they're not happy with it, then they'll have to go away and you know, rethink. So, you know, there's quite a process to be got through before we can, you know, come up with firm dates, and also, you know, arrange to have exhibitions that local residents can come to. I think there's not much point in having those exhibitions until we've got, you know, more hard information to give everyone.
And just going back to Colin's other point about the modelling for the wider area, we've had initial traffic modelling done just on the roundabout itself, which shows very little or no impact on capacity of the roundabout as it stands now. What we're waiting for, and it's very little because it's out of my hands when it comes to modelling, and we've been promised the report for quite a while now. But again, early this week I've been promised that it should be with us within the next week or so. And that's a modelling exercise to see what the impact would be on the Addenbrooks roundabout, on the Hills Road, Long Road junction, and the junctions further around as well.
Sorry, I don't understand how you're talking about delivering the roundabout before you've got that modelling data.
No.
If it
No.
doesn't work, it's going to be
No.
embarrassing, surely.
No, we just said this report should be with us within the next week and a half. We're looking to start the scheme in September.
Sandra mentioned about cyclists being pushed onto the pavement. Is that on Cherryhinton High Street?
It's just right at the end of the high street as
Yeah,
you approach
yeah.
the lights.
Well,
it's
I
that
think.
last stretch where
Yeah.
the cars take over the cycle lane.
Yeah.
Because it just stops.
Yeah. No, I mean I've witnessed that myself. Yeah. I think certainly on the approaches to the roundabout, we've made it clear to the signals team that we want, proper cycle lanes and proper vehicle lane widths so that vehicles are not encroaching onto the cycle lane. So I think that's quite important. It's very difficult, I think, further down the high street when you've got queuing traffic during, say, morning rush hour, and you've got a very narrow sort of road to work with, to know what the solution is. It's, short of making a high street one way, shot hard, I wouldn't want that, I don't think. There's not a lot we can do on that one.
What about a Dutch
And then-
roundabout at the Robin Hood?
You don't want any verges taken, and there just wouldn't be room.
But watch this space.
Yes, yes. And, I think we're aware of your feelings about verges. I'd be surprised if they want to put fencing up, perhaps knee rail fencing, but I wouldn't have thought they'd want to put fencing up. But if as a result of the consultation, the option with just one vehicle lane on the approach to the Robin Hood is given backing, then we wouldn't need to take any city council language. It's the last thing that we want to do. We as in cycling team are sometimes demonised as being, sort of environmental wreckers. Actually, the complete opposite is true. We want people on bikes, for all the good reasons. We don't want to be taking out verges and trees, and we want to be adding, if anything. But it's a really difficult balance to get right.
Okay, is that a lot?
Yeah.
Right.
Do you want me to talk about a few of the other schemes, like Fulbourn Road? I'll just very quickly talk about Fulbourn Road, which at the moment we haven't finished the section on the north and south side of Fulbourn Road, where, on the approach to the Robin Hood Junction. It's essentially because we're waiting for a land transfer agreement from the Robin Hood owners. We just want a sliver of land in order to be able to put a floating bus stop on the north side as well as the south side. So we will be doing that. And then, particularly on the south side, I think it's really important that we have a cycle lane that leads right into the junction. So I can